Hello, welcome back. Good morning. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. So, let's start today's class with passing objects as arguments topic. So, in the last class, we wrote an example for passing integer parameters, right? Integers as function arguments, and we also returned integer from a function. In today's class, we will see how to pass an object as a function argument and also how to return a object. So, we will go through this first. Objects can be passed to functions as arguments just the same way as any other data type is passed. So, the syntax remains the same. There is no change. The way you pass any other argument, the same way you can pass an object also. So, what would be the type when I say an object? You should say class type. So, class is a user defined data type. Instead of like int, float, char, you need to write the class name, the object of the class, right? If you are passing an object of class XYZ, then XYZ would be the type for the object. That an argument when calling the function should name the right of the class, write the name of the class as an argument when you are calling the function. So, we'll write one program for that. First, we'll understand the statement of the program, because understanding the statement is very important. If you are not able to understand the question properly, you will not be able to write the program properly. What does it say? Define a class called exam. So, the name of my class should be exam, and it has 3 data members. It will have 3 variables: physics, chemistry and math. Like it will, to store the marks scored in physics, chemistry and mathematics, I will have 3 variables which will hold that data for me. So, that should be declared in the private section of my class. The next is the public member functions. So, in the public, why do I put it in public? Because if I put it in private, I will not be able to access it from outside the class. So, I need to write it in public section. What are the 3 methods I have there? I will have the input function. What does it do? It will take in the physics, chemistry and mathematics marks scored by the student. So, I need to take in the marks scored in physics, chemistry and mathematics in the input function, and in the display function I am going to print those details, like what is the physics marks code, what is the chemistry marks code and what is the mathematics marks scored. Then I will also have a function called total. See, here I will be taking marks of 2 examinations. One is PUC and one is CET. So, I need to take the PUC marks of physics, PUC marks of chemistry and PUC marks of mathematics, and I also have to take the CET marks of physics, CET marks of chemistry and CET marks of mathematics. Then in the total function, I need to calculate the sum of physics marks, that is the physics sum. Physics sum is nothing but PUC physics marks plus the CET physics marks. Chemistry total is PUC chemistry marks plus the CET chemistry marks, and mathematics total should be marks scored in PUC in mathematics plus the marks scored in CET in mathematics. I need to print the individual totals of all these three subjects in both the examination. So, you can have a look at the question. The question says the name of the class should be exam and it should have three variables, that is physics, chemistry and math. Why do I need it? To store the data scored, that is to store the score, the student's score, the marks scored by the student in the PUC and the CET examinations. So, how do I do that? In the input function, I will take the PU marks first and then the CET marks. In the display, I will print the PUC marks of physics, chemistry and mathematics, and then I will print the CET marks of physics, chemistry and mathematics. And in the total function, I need to individually find the subject total of PUC physics and CET physics, PUC chemistry and CET chemistry, and PUC mathematics and CET mathematics. Please have a look. Hopefully by this time you should be clear with the question, like what we are going to do. And we are going to find the total by passing objects as arguments to the function total. So, you need to pass objects as arguments to the function total. So, we will write this program. I will explain you while writing it, the syntax, the logic, and hopefully you will understand it. Please make a note of this question. So, we will start with the program. How do I start that? With the hash include statements. Hash include iostream.h hash include con.io.h. After that, I will have my class declaration. So, how do I declare my class? With the keyword class and then the name of the class. As specified in the question, I have to name it as exam. So, exam is the name of my class. I will open this in the private section. How many variables I have? I have three variables, physics, chemistry and mathematics, to store the marks. So, I will say float. Float is the data type. I will say physics, chemistry, mathematics. So, PCM, float PCM. This is my data members. And public member functions, it is to be noted, private, public, class, float, everything is in lower case only. Since they are keywords, it has to be written in lower case only. Here, what are the functions I have? Void, input, okay, then void display, then void total. Then what will I do? Total, how many? I need to pass two objects to that of the type exam. So, I will say exam comma exam, because I am passing objects. So, I need to write the name of the class, okay, because I am passing objects of exam class. So, I will write how many I am passing. I am passing two objects. So, I will write exam comma exam, close my class here, terminated. So, class exam float PCM, then I have input function without return without arguments, display function without return without arguments, total function without return and two arguments, that is of the class type, that is objects I am passing of the class exam. Please have a look and make a note of it. Next, I will start with my input function. So, how do I write it? Defining a function outside the class, return type of the function, name of the class to which it belongs to, scope resolution operator, and then the name of the function. Okay. So, what do I do now? I have to ask the user to enter what? Enter PCM marks. So, you are asking the user to enter the physics, chemistry and mathematics marks, and I am taking in P, C, M, and I am closing my class. C out, enter PCM marks, and C in PCM. I am closing my function here. Which function am I closing? I am closing my input function here. And this is cascading of input operator. Since input is a function, I will not put a semicolon here. Semicolon is only for the class. Then after this, I will be writing my display function. So, return type of display was void. The name of the class to which it belongs to is exam, and then display. Okay. How do I write now? C out, I will say physics, and then I will write the physics marks. C out, enter chemistry, C out, enter math, and then M. So, I am writing physics will be printed, anything in quotes would be printed as it is. Okay. And physics, all this would be printed one below the other. I have indel in the beginning. So, first new line, and then this is printed, and then this is printed, and this is printed. PCM marks would be printed. So, this is my input function, that is I am asking the user to enter the PCM marks. I am taking in the marks, and then here in the display function I am writing physics, chemistry and math marks. This is what I do. Fine. Please make a note of it. Then after that I need to write what? I need to write my display, I need to write my total function. That is where I am going to calculate the total marks. What was the return type of the total function? It was void. The name of the class to which it belongs to, exam, scope resolution operator, and then the name of the function with an argument list. So, I was passing two objects of exam. So, it will be a exam T1 comma T2. Okay. T1 and T2 are the objects. Here exam space T2, exam space T1. Fine. I will write this. So, now what I have to do? I have to say physics is equal to T1 dot physics plus T2 dot physics. What will T1 dot physics have? For example, with the object T1, I would have taken the physics marks. scored in PUC. With T2, I will take the physics marks scored in CET. When I actually write the main, again I will explain you with this function only. So, physics P is equal to T1 dot P. That is, T1 will keep this noted down. With T1 object, I will take the PUC marks, and with T2 object, I will take the CET marks. So, T1 dot P will give me the physics marks stored in scored in PUC, and T2 dot P will give me the physics marks scored in CET. As we all know, the same same class can have more than one object, and each object can have different values. We did that in the last class program also. You can go and have a look there, that x and y values with different objects, I can store different values to it. Same way, physics, chemistry, math marks with P1 would be your PUC marks. Now with T1 would be your PUC marks, and physics, chemistry, math with T2 would be your CET marks. They may be same, they may be different. So whenever I say T1 dot physics, it means that it is the marks scored in PUC physics. T2 dot physics is the marks scored in CET physics. So the sum of this would be stored in P. Next, C is equal to T1 dot C plus T2 dot C. M is nothing but T1 dot M plus T2 dot M. The same way you have physics, then T1 dot C is nothing but marks scored in PUC chemistry, and T2 dot C is nothing but the marks scored in CET chemistry. T1 dot M is marks scored in PUC mathematics, and T2 dot M is the marks scored in CET mathematics. The sum of these two will be stored in M, C and P in the function total. Have a look. Then I will write the main program. Next, I finished my class. Let me start with my main. Void main. Now, first step is to create an object. You can create one or more objects for a class. How do I do that? Class name space the object list. So, I will say exam, and I will create three objects, E1, E2, E3. Okay. E1, E2, E3 are the objects created for the class exam. Now I will say cout, enter your PUC marks. Okay, see, the thing is, I can have E1, E2, E3, and in the function header I can have T1, T2, T3. Okay, but since I feel it would confuse you more, let me name these objects as T1, T2, T3 only. But then I can have E1, E2, E3, and there I can have T1, T2, T3. So for your understanding benefit, let me name it as T1, T2, T3 only. I will not change the name, but this name does not matter. It need not be same. The type and the number always matters. So what are the objects? T1, T2, T3 of the exam. Enter your PUC marks. Okay. Then For PUC marks, which object I should relate to? T1. T1 dot input. What does the input function do? The input function will ask the user to enter the physics, chemistry and math marks, and it will store it in the variables PCM. And with T1 I am taking it. So here I am specifying enter your PUC marks. So T1 will have the PUC marks. The T1 object will hold the PUC marks. Again, Cout, enter your CET marks. Then T2 dot input. So T1 is for PUC, CET marks is stored with the object T2. I am taking the CET marks with the object T2. Again, input function, what does it do? It will just take the PUC marks, that is physics, chemistry, math marks. Here in the main I am specifying PUC and CET. With T2 I am taking in this input. Okay. Have a look. After that I will print my PUC marks. How will I do that? Cout PUC marks. Okay. Which object I should call the display function? With T1, right? T1 has the PUC mark. So I will with T1 I will call the display function. What does the display function do? If you remember it, you will know that the display function just displayed physics and the marks, chemistry the marks, and mathematics the marks one below the other. So with T1 when I call, what does T1 have? It will have the PUC marks, because input I have taken PUC here. T1 dot display will display me the physics, chemistry, mathematics PUC marks. Next is Cout CET marks. Okay. I will call the T2 dot display, because T2 has the CET marks. I have taken it with T2. So T2 dot display will display me physics, chemistry, mathematics marks of CET. So we'll just go through this again. See, exam, I created 3 objects, T1, T2, T3. How do I create? Class name space the object name. With T1 I am taking the PUC marks, with T2 I am taking the CET marks, and then I am displaying the PUC marks with T1 and displaying the CET marks with T2. This one we just took PUC and CET. Now we have to calculate the total. How do I do that? What was the syntax of that? The return type of the function was, void, right? The return type of the function was void, but then I need to write it in main. How will I write it in main? T3, you remember we also have an object called T3, T1, T2, T3. So T3 dot total, and 2 objects is T1 comma T2. I am passing 2 objects along with the T3 object. I am calling the function total here, and I am passing T1 and T2. Let me write the total function what I had written there. What was it? Void total exam T1 comma exam T2, and then P is equal to T1 dot P plus T2 dot P, C is equal to T1 dot C plus T2 dot C, and m is equal to t1 dot m plus t2 dot m, closing it. So here what happens, this is the function call. When I say function call, these are the parameters t1 and t2 are the object. So what happens is, here it goes to this t1 and this is to this t1. So physics is equal to, this is the class variables, correct? We declared PCM in the class, so they are class variables, t1 dot p. So what will t1 have? The physics marks stored in PUC, plus t2 dot p, which will have the marks stored in CET, and the sum of these two will be stored in the class variable p. Again C will be t1 dot c plus t2 dot c, that sum will be stored in C, and m will have t1 dot m plus t2 dot m, and then that gets stored here in m. And which object am I calling this? I am calling with t3 object. So when I call this with the t3 object, and when I call the display function with t3, it will give me these values of PCM. Because with t3 I am calculating the total. So the total is substituted in class variables PCM. Whatever is this value, whenever I access the display function with t3 object, will print me the sum of physics, that is sum of the PUC and CET marks individually. So how do I do that? Cout total marks t3 dot display. So what did I do? I passed t1 and t2. First, with the t1 object, I called the input function, asked the user to enter the PUC marks of PCM. Then again I called the input function with t2 object, asked the user to enter the CET marks of PCM, and I just displayed both of that, and then I called the total function with t3 object and passed t1 and t2. So in the function, what am I doing in the total? I am making the class variables PCM, I am calculating them as t1 dot p, that is the PU mark plus the CET marks. Similarly, it is the same for all the subjects, that is it will have the sum of the PUC and the CET marks stored in P when with the t3 object. So with the t3, if I call display, it will print me the total. With t1, if I call display, it will print me the PUC marks. With t2, if I call display, it will print me the CET marks. With t3, if I call display, it will print me the sum of the PUC and CET marks for each subject. Please have a look. Hopefully you have understood this. So next we will be returning objects from a function. Okay, from function till now we did passing arguments to a function. Now we will return arguments from a function. How do I do that? Before that, let me understand the program statement. Let me understand the program statement. What does it say? Define a class called exam. So the name of the class is exam, and data members are physics, chemistry and mathematics. Same way, the member functions are input, display and total. So what does the input function do? As we all know, physics, chemistry and computer science subject, here also it is Physics, chemistry and computer science subjects have theory and practical examinations conducted separately. So, you will have a separate theory score as well as a separate practical score, and the exam, your mark sheet also will have separate theory marks, separate practical marks, and then the total marks out of 100. That is what we need to do here. We need to read the theory marks scored in physics, chemistry and computer science subjects, and then you need to read the practical marks scored in physics, chemistry and computer science subjects. You need to display the theory marks separately, display the practical marks scored separately, and then you need to find the total of theory and practical marks in each subject, and you need to return an object from a class. Fine. This one you need to do. This is the program statement. Please have a look and make a note of this. Please make a note of this. Hopefully you have noted down. So we'll start. We'll start with the program. How do I do that? With the hash include statements. And please make a note of all these programs, whatever is written during the class. Hash include iostream.h, hash include conio.h. Then I will have my class declaration here. Class exam. In the private, I have three variables: physics, chemistry and CS. In the public, what do I have? I have void input. Why do I need input function? To take in the marks of physics, chemistry and computer science, both theory as well as practical. Void display. Why do I need it? I need it to display the marks of physics, chemistry and computer science, both in theory as well as practical. And then I have a function called total, which has to return a object, and I will be passing one object to it. So I will pass one object of the class exam and it will return a object. So what is the return type? Exam, because the object is of type exam. Then total, I am going to pass an object of type exam to it. So this is how my class looks. See, this is very important. Total is a function to which I am going to pass an object of exam, and it is going to return an exam object to the calling function. Which is the called function here? Total would be the called function and main would be the calling function. So this function total will get an object from the calling function and it will return an object to the called function. So this is how your exam class would look. Please make a note. Now let me start with the input function. Return type of the function, name of the class to which it belongs to, scope resolution operator and name of the function. This is a no return and no argument function. What do I write here? Cout enter your P, C and CS theory marks. P, C and CS. No, here I will not write theory or practical. Let me write it in the main. Enter your P, C and CS. I will say marks. Okay. What am I saying? This theory and practical, let me write it in main, so that for both of that I will use this one. Once I call the display input function, it will just show you enter your P, C and CS marks, and I am going to take in the P, C, physics, chemistry and CS marks, and I am closing my function here. This is called cascading of input operators. Once it is done, I will write my display function. So, how do I do that? Void exam scope resolution operator display. Again, display is also no return and no argument function. So, cout, what will I say? Let me put the subject name, that is physics. Okay. P, enter cout chemistry, C, enter cout computer science, CS. So, in the display function I am just writing physics, chemistry and computer science one below the other, and I am printing the marks. So, this is your input function, this is your display function. Enter your P, C and CS marks, and then you are taking in P, C and CS, and then you are printing it here one below the other. Now, we will write the total function. How do I write it? What was the return type? The return type, the total function was going to return an object of the class exam. It was going to return an object. So, it is exam, which is the return type of the total function to the class which the function belongs to is exam. See, these two are different. This is the class to which, that is, the function is declared in the class. The total function is declared in the class exam. So, total belongs to exam. The return type of total is an object of the class. It is going to return an object. So, it is a class type. That is why I am writing here the return type. Then scope resolution operator, and what am I? Are there any arguments? Yes, I was passing one object there. So, I will say exam T2. So, T2 is the object. Now, I need to return an object here, and what should the object hold? It should hold the total marks of physics, chemistry and computer science, total theory plus the practical marks for each subject. That is total of physics theory, physics practical in physics, chemistry theory, chemistry practical in chemistry, and computer science theory and computer science practical in computer science. So, what should I do? Let me, since I need to return an object, first I need to declare it. How do I create an object? Class name space the object name. Let T3 be the object. Fine. I am going to create an object T3 here, and then what am I going to do? T3 dot physics is equal to physics plus T2 dot physics. Why am I writing directly physics here? I am not writing T1 dot physics because I will call this total function using the object T1. So, when I call the function using the object T1, automatically the physics marks of T1 would be here. So, I need not say T1 dot physics. Physics is nothing but T1 dot physics, and T2 dot physics is the practical marks. Yes. With T2 I am going to take the practical marks. With T1 I am going to take the theory marks. And T3 I have created in the function total, which will have T3 dot physics will have the physics marks of theory physics, the theory physics marks plus the practical physics marks. So, T3 dot C is, when I do main, I will again write this as in a box and explain it so that you will understand it better, but you just go through what I am going to do here. I have created an object here. T3 dot C is equal to C plus T2 dot C. Then T3 dot CS is nothing but CS plus T2 dot CS. Then return T3. This one, because I need to return it. I am returning an object here because T3 is an object. So, this is the total I am calculating and I am returning the object T3 here. Have a look. Then when I write main, I will write it in the side and I will explain it to you how it works. The next I have to write my main function. How do I write my main? Void main let me create 3 objects. How do I create? Exam T1, T2, T3. And let me have one more object here, T4 also. Okay. Let me have one more, T4. Instead of T3, let me have T4. Okay. So, T1, T2 and T4. Cout, enter your theory marks. So, theory marks, let me take theory marks with T1 object, T1 dot. So, that is your physics, chemistry, CS theory marks. In the input function, anyway the user will know what he needs to enter. After that, Cout, enter your practical marks. With T2, I will take physics, chemistry and CS practical marks. Okay. Now, I will print it. So, Cout, I will say theory marks what should I call? With which object should I call? The display function with the T1 object, right? Because I have taken in the input values, that is theory marks with T1. Similar way, Cout practical marks. How do I do that? With T2 dot display. What will happen? T2 dot display will call the practical marks, because T2 dot input I had used for taking the practical marks. Yes, T1, T2 and T4 are the objects I have created. Please have a look. Now what should I do? Now I should call the total function, right? How do I do that? Whenever you are returning any value, I should have something of the same type to hold it. So I will say T4. What is T4? It's an object of the class type. Of the class exam. What does the function total return? It also returns an object of the class exam. So T4 is equal to T1 dot total T2. So what am I doing here? I am stating that I created 3 objects for exam T1, T2 and T4 in the main. I am talking about main here because I am in main here. So what am I doing is T1, with the help of the object T1, I am calling the function total T1 dot total, and I am passing T2, that is your practical marks. T2 holds the practical marks, right? I am passing the object T2 here. So how was your total function there? The total was exam total and exam T2. In that I created one more object T3 and I said T3 dot physics is nothing but physics plus T2 dot physics. T3 dot chemistry is nothing but chemistry plus T2 dot chemistry. Yeah, and T3 dot CS is nothing but CS plus T2 dot CS and return T3. Yeah, I am returning T3. So what am I doing here? When I call this, what is this? This is the function call. So what happens when I call this function? With which object I am calling? I am calling with the T1 object. So T1 object I am calling and T2 is passed here, and I am creating a new object T3 here. T3 dot physics is nothing but the physics. Since I am calling it with T1, so it will be nothing but T1. Whatever is the POC marks would be there here, plus the whatever is the theory marks there in P and the practical marks in T2 dot P. Similar way, C is nothing but the theory marks in chemistry plus the practical marks, that is T2. T2 is what I have taken the practical marks. So T1 is nothing but I have taken the theory marks. I am calling this function with T1. So this will have the T1 marks, that is the theory marks, and then T2 dot P, T2 dot C and T2 dot CS will have the practical marks. The sum of that would be stored in T3 dot P, T3 dot C and T3 dot CS, and I am returning T3 here. Where will it get returned to? It will get returned to the place of the function call. So it will return T3 here, which gets substituted to T4. So if I say cout total marks enter. So if I use T4 dot display, what was the display function doing? It was just printing the physics, chemistry and math marks. What will T4 dot display have? So whatever is the T3 dot display we calculated here, returned it here, which again got substituted here. So T3 and T4 are same, nothing but T4 dot display. Whatever I calculated here with T3 will be reflected here. Hopefully you have understood this program. This was the last topic of this chapter. Please go through this again. If you have any doubts, you can get back to your campus teachers. The next is the homework question. What is the homework question? Write a C++ program that receives the arrival time, departure time and speed of an automobile in kilometers per hour as an input to a class. Compute the distance travelled in meters per second and display the result using the member functions. Please go through this. Try to write the next chapter, which we would be doing, is function overloading. We'll just go through the objectives and just a definition of that in today's class, and we'll do it in the next class in detail. So the next chapter, like after classes and objects, is function overloading. So what is overloading? Overloading is nothing but polymorphism, right? We studied polymorphism is one of the OOPS property. So function overloading is nothing but polymorphism. The objectives of this chapter: definition and declaration of function. Like how do we declare and define a overloaded function, and why do we need it? Like how is it advantageous? Like what are the advantages of overloading, need of function overloading? Then we'll study an example. How do we call overloaded? Until you call a function, it will not execute. So how do I call a overloaded or invoke a overloaded function? Restrictions on overloading. This is very, very important. You should know how to overload, like when it can be, when it cannot be, and what are the restrictions on overloaded functions. What are inline functions, advantages and disadvantages of inline functions. Friend functions. So how are friend functions different than normal member functions? How are they declared? What are the properties of friend functions? All this we will study in friend functions. So just go through this objectives once. Next is polymorphism. As we said, polymorphism is nothing but one of the OOPS property. Definition of polymorphism. So this is a one marker. Please make a note of it. The ability of a operator and a function. So operator and functions are different. The ability of an operator and function to take multiple forms is known as polymorphism. Operator are, some of the examples of operator are plus, minus, all these are operators, right? The ability of an operator and function to take multiple forms is known as polymorphism. There are two types. One is operator overloading, the other one is function overloading. You can overload an operator also and you can overload a function also. For your syllabus, you don't have operator overloading, so will not be doing that, but you just know you can overload an operator also and you can overload a function also. We'll be mainly dealing with function overloading. So function overloading definition, again please make a note of it. Definition with example: two or more functions have the same name but differ in the number of arguments or the data type of arguments passed to it. That is, same name but different number of arguments or no arguments or the type of arguments passed to it. You can differentiate a function, and it also has to be noted that only on the return type of the function. You cannot overload it. Getting it? Like both, suppose if int sum a b and again float sum a b will not be a overloaded function, or if I have one void and one float also is not overloaded function. It should be differ in the number of arguments and the data type of the arguments passed to it. So sum is same, the name of the function is same. This one is returning an integer value, this is going to return a float value. See how many arguments I am passing here? I am passing 2 arguments here, 2 arguments here. So the number of arguments are same, but the data types of arguments are different. That is, int a and int b, these has 2 integer arguments passed to it, whereas this has 2 float arguments passed to it. This is just a idea how to write a overloaded function. We'll do this in detail in the next class. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.